the objective for the talk today was to cover the Rails engines pieces and talk that through. And so I was going to hand it over to Wayne to talk about that in a minute. Actually, I'll stop since true to form, I'm just jumping into it. This is the Crowbar design meeting for our first January sprint. We have a lot of people online right now, so I'm not going to try and go through and do introductions. The process here is that we'll review some of the pending topics, make sure we have the right priorities. We had scheduled an extra session for tomorrow at the same time to talk about the Cmdb integration approach, which I know on the Dell team we've been talking about quite a bit and is worth rehashing. And then we have a future topic to talk about Vagrant. So we've made a lot of progress, Judd, specifically on getting Vagrant to run on Windows. Hold on, I'm getting pinged.
The biggest challenge has been getting it to work behind the Dell firewall.
That's always the biggest challenge. So I would encourage people to try it because we're trying to help use that to standardize. And okay, so those are topics that we have immediate pending. SUSE, Adam had asked to go through the OBS diagram, and we're just waiting for the timing for that. Talking about changes we've been making to Sledgehammer, the dev tool, talking through that. We've really put a lot of effort in that. And there's some important enhancements I'm looking forward to towards automated testing of pull requests. And then scheduling, we're not talking about, probably not this week, but shortly, because I know everybody wants to talk about that too. Any changes or other topics to inject? Okay. Wayne, are you about ready to take over?
Yes, this probably won't take very long, Rob.
Okay.
So
you do that, then
I'll just give a status.
Okay. Before you start, because we'll probably end up in that case driving towards schedule. Just as a reminder for everybody, we are using Trello boards to track things, and so please update as you go. I keep hoping to close stories, and then we add work to them. So I think we're making progress. I know. I'm watching check-ins, and we've seen a lot of big check-ins, which is excellent. Okay, so back to this. All right. If nothing else, Wayne, I'll turn the floor over to you. Do you need to present, okay, or are you going to talk through and I'll take notes?
I'll just talk through it.
Okay, I'll take notes.
I don't have anything to show on the screen. So I've been working on a prototype for converting the format of Barclamps code, the code that gets folded into the Crowbar application, converting that into format. The utility in that is there's a number of advantages that I think many of which are speculative, but I think if you follow along, you'll see that it's kind of a reasonable thing to think about. One of the issues with the way Barclamps are installed in Crowbar is that the controllers and models are folded directly into the Crowbar structure in the same place that the Crowbar controllers and models are placed. So there's possibilities for namespace collisions of various kinds. Likewise, the routes that address Crowbar-specific UI are also have to be defined in the Crowbar routes file. So one of the advantages of engines is that they allow you to integrate functionality into an application like Crowbar from a third source without smashing the namespaces together, so to speak. So for example, an engine would have a subdirectory for controllers and a subdirectory for models and a subdirectory for views that provide a namespace installation from the Crowbar application. And it also provides a way for Barclamp code to refer to objects and controllers in the main Crowbar application and vice versa without ambiguities. So you can refer to Crowbar models from the engine view code, for example. Likewise, engine functionality are mounted in a parent application like Crowbar in such a way that the routes for the engine functionality can be defined separately and are mounted at what you can think of as a mount point in the route style of the Crowbar application, so that you don't have a conflict of routes for the Crowbar and the various engines.
Which is similar to what our objective has been, right, from an API design perspective.
Right. So I'll be sending out something soon that kind of describes what I think the routing situation should be, but I think it satisfies some of the issues that we've been talking about over the last several months in terms of the API structure and how that should work, versioning, and so forth. So one of the things I'm doing is I've got a script that will go through and convert existing Barclamp code into an engine structure that involves both moving some files around and kind of auto-editing a few files to create namespaced class names, for example, in controllers. So I'm in the process of trying to test an installation of the engine-fied Barclamps into an ISO and a running admin node and get that working and kind of push through some of the issues that we'll find in doing that. I think once we satisfy ourselves that that's a feasible thing to do, I think it will be straightforward to convert existing Barclamps, perhaps piecemeal. There's no reason why the old and new structure of Barclamps can't coexist for some period of time. So we can, in a controlled fashion, convert all the Barclamps over to an engine format. So I'll be providing more information to this group as I make progress on that. And so I'm working on that in this sprint, and hopefully we'll see some progress here. Okay, Rob. So is there any questions?
So I guess so in the migration process, you can pick one or two Barclamps and then start. It sounds like engines are non-disruptive. They're already in place. Is that true?
That's right. There's already a process by which you define and refer to an engine in the main application and the way to install it, so to speak, and mount the engine in the application for running. So it's just for our purposes, it's just a matter. The scripting will really just involve both the initial conversion and then in the installation process, we'll have to script a way for the installation to find the Barclamps and
You're saying the Barclamp
create
install,
the
right?
create the sorry.
You're saying that it's the Barclamp install that needs to be updated to do that?
That's right. That's right. So the way they're installed in the application, when you, for example, install the admin node, we'll have to update that so that they get installed correctly as engines, rather than have the code fold in as they are now. But that should be fairly straightforward.
Right. And the Barclamps already have the concept of a Barclamp version number in it.
You're asking me?
No, well, no, I'm saying they do.
Yeah.
So that's. Although we need to decide, I'm assuming that the engines would be considered the 2.0 Barclamps. So in a lot of ways, the current Barclamps are version 1.5 maybe, or something like that, and we should look at if there's a way to do that, or.
Yeah, I think that's right.
And it might be possible to just switch to, as part of this, to migrate all of the, let's see, so I'll make a note here. Perhaps we should set the current version of Barclamps to 1.5 or 1.9, and the engines versions.
Okay.
We could actually do that non-disruptively right now, just by allowing the migrations to work for 1.9 or 1.2, and then migrate. So that way, we can migrate all the Barclamps back to 1.9. You see what I'm saying?
Not exactly.
Okay. I have to touch all the Barclamps shortly to make some of the doc changes that I've signed up for. So what I know how to do this.
Okay.
But I think this will help with what you're trying to do.
Okay. So that's all I've got.
Okay, so this needs to get
Would
on the
it
card.
make sense? So Wayne, I'm sorry, I'm paying attention to far things. I might have misunderstood some things you said, but would it make sense to create one Barclamp that, let me backtrack. Sounds like there are two efforts. One is finalize the pattern of what the new Barclamp would look like with engines and how it affects routing and namespacing and everything else. And in parallel, there is another effort that you're working on scripting the conversion from the old to the new. Is that a fair statement?
Yes.
Would it make sense to pick one Barclamp and do the manual conversion and plug it in so it would be kind of a sample of how things should look like?
Yes, I've done that.
Sorry?
Yes, I've done that.
Oh, and committed. So people can look at it and understand the implications.
Okay. Yeah, and so I'll do that, and the only obstacle to that is just ensuring that the Barclamp is fully tested in that installation. So once I've done that, I can submit, like as you say, I can commit one of them as an engine, and then people can see what it looks like.
Well, potentially, so there's, for example, a test Barclamp that's actually used during Crowbar, during the install, basically. There's some sanity check that Crowbar kind of wobbles. If we create a test Crowbar 2.0 that nothing else depends on, what I'm trying to do is I'm eager to see how the thing looks. And I'm trying to find a path of list resistance where you can put something in that we can start seeing how it's going to look like. Mm-hmm. And if it's broken, it's okay because nothing depends on it as long as it doesn't interfere with installing the other stuff.
So yeah, so if we did the test Barclamp, then it should be able to demonstrate extending the UI, right? And it
well, maybe not the test Barclamp itself because the test Barclamp actually is used during an admin install. I was suggesting we actually create a new Barclamp. That looks like the test Barclamp, which is relatively simple.
But it seems like if it's used during the install, then it seems like a perfect candidate for modification.
Well, except that it must work as opposed to not necessarily working.
Right, but I mean that's. But it's
okay.
a small target. There's not much code. If you can get that working, then you'll have resolved issues.
Right. Well, there are a lot of small targets that can be used for that purpose.
So do we have right? So do we want to, Andy? Rather than creating a whole fresh Barclamp, I'd rather just work on a migration of one. Is my thought for it?
Sure. So maybe the test Barclamp is not that good because there's a lot of testing that you will need to update a lot of API calls if the URLs change. There's part of what happens is at the end of install, basically there's a mini unit test.
Understand.
Which I guess it's not that onerous because it uses the Barclamp CLI library. So if we update the Barclamp CLI library to be cognizant of the new patterns, then
right. So if you want to do that, the log Barclamp has API and UI.
Okay.
That's fine. I have I know those does accommodate both, and I don't think there are dependencies on the log Barclamp.
Okay. I'll take a look at that one too.
Cool. I'm trying to think. So the engines pieces will basically use the same mechanism we use for localizations now.
That's right.
Do they have a concept of style overrides? Because that's one of the places that things are sort of ugly.
I haven't explicitly tested it, but yeah, you can have a Barclamps views either rendered in its own template or the master applications template, and so you can I believe it's possible to have the Barclamp override or the master override the Barclamps style.
Okay.
If necessary, because it's when the engine looks for the view files, it looks first in the engine and maybe it's the engine and then the master. I can't remember the order, but yeah, it's possible to override one with the other.
That's actually something that we want to. Right now, we have install code that munges the SAML, the application SAML, and adding at the bottom is not a problem. But we have styles that we inject at the top for branding, and so we might need to just look at how that's handled and if we can create an override for it.
Okay.
Or it's possible that we could take the Crowbar style and inject it as its own Barclamp, and we might need that. That actually might require some rejiggering on the UI side to add in the styles. I mean, it'd be useful to look at that. James, I don't know if you have any experience with SAML and doing the cascading work in Rails. Do you?
Sure. Yeah. But I'm not sure that's a technique that would actually having a separate Barclamp for styles. I'm not sure that's a technique that would be the most useful. But we can talk about it some more.
Yeah, we need to think about it because I know that there are Barclamps that we use, right, that do pretty much nothing but apply to our style sheet. And I know SUSE does a similar thing with theirs.
Okay.
Okay. We had other questions come in from Judd. Judd, do you want to ask them?
Sure, I can verbalize them. Is there still a global namespace, and how do we? Because we're trying to get to how do engines interact. Because we have our global framework namespace, I guess, something like that, and then how do engines interact with each other?
I'm sorry, Jeff.
You couldn't hear me? Wayne?
You broke up a little bit. You want to repeat it?
Is there still a global namespace? And how do engines interact with some sort of, with other object models?
Right. So, are
So I
you
think there
thinking
is
from a Barclamps interacting with each other perspective, or?
I'm sorry, I accidentally muted my phone.
Oh.
There is a global namespace. Engines have their own namespace, but you can refer, an engine can refer to the master application controllers and models, and vice versa.
Okay. Is there any special helper sort of stuff for engines to communicate with each other? Is there?
That's right. That's right. So each engine, the models and controllers have view helpers that allow you to refer to specific paths. For example, they have path helpers. So you can refer to an engine's model or master applications model from the view, for example.
But from logic perspective, is the controller, if a controller needs to invoke methods on another engine's model object for logic purposes, not just view, as long as you namespace qualified, like Ruby namespace qualified the classes, there isn't anything special around engines, right?
That's right. Yeah, it generates, the helpers are generated on the fly so as long as the engine's been installed, it can be found, then it will, the helper functions will identify the correct namespace models and so forth.
Do we get anything else from engines, like a queue to pass messages between Barclamps, between engines?
No, they're not really. I mean, I think one of the major advantages apart from the namespace business is just that they are an established and well documented form of code expression for inclusion in an application. So as time goes on and other people become involved in the project, you don't have to say, here's the code structure of a Barclamp. You say, the Barclamp, among other things, has an engine that is installed in the application, and you can go read about engines here. And then you don't have to do anything special to socialize how Barclamp are implemented.
So these aren't like a separate Ruby process. This isn't like actually an engine or a process. This is just an application within the same Ruby executable.
I'm not sure I understand your question.
It's not we kind of talked about that.
It's one session, right? It's a shared session.
I'm sorry, that sounded broken up. I couldn't understand.
Sorry. So I'm sorry to interrupt, but I believe it's that the judge might be hinting at that it's a single HTTP session shared across engines.
Yes, there's not a special process that an engine runs in that's separate from the main application. It's just a way of integrating the code together. It's still a single web app.
Right. So it's not like a multi-process application or,
no.
Any kind of threading involved or any of that.
No.
They're not like little applets that float around on their own. It's much more of a partition. It's like what we do with Barclamps already, I think.
Yeah, that's right. for example, the device authentication system is an engine. So we already use that. And in fact, all applications are derived from engine classes.
Well, it'd be cool if they were actually engines. You know, possibly, like in Erlang or Poe.
Yeah, Erlang.
Wayne, this is Dave. I had a question on localization. So one of the things that I was doing in users was to alias localizations that were defined in a file. I wonder if provide that an anchor in, say, the base localization file from a Barclamp.
I don't understand your question, too.
Okay, so look at Rails anchors and aliases. So you could define a common anchor and say the post localization file, say a cancel label, right? And it could provide an alias for it, so you can reference that alias from other localization. So you don't have to keep repeating a string over and over again. And I'm wondering if engines provide support for referencing aliases in other localization files.
I don't know about the alias part. They do support having, overriding localizations.
Right. If it works in what we already use the engine's localization pattern. So if it works, if it works in what we've got, which I think it does, it'll work in that. Because
I actually couldn't get it to work, so I could not get. I could not reference an alias defined in the base localization file for Crowbar from the user's localization file.
Good to know. That's an outstanding question. Okay. That actually makes sense in a way because you're creating dependencies.
Is that the direction that you want to go, right? You'd want to go the other way around. So an engine shouldn't depend on the application.
I would think they would all be stacked up, right? I would think that when everything is fired up, that you have a pod.
Let me finish, right? The idea is that you can add an engine or remove, you can add an engine into different applications, that information that engines give you. So an engine shouldn't depend on something that's defined higher up above it in the application.
It shouldn't depend on it, but it shouldn't hurt either. Ideally it would be good if you could refer, if we knew this predetermined set of aliases that our Barclamps developers could use it instead of duplicating string.
Well, I know we should be able to,
but there's all that for the other. Right?
But you're talking specifically about aliases, not localization strings themselves. I know we can cross-reference localization strings. You're talking about the automatic alias, which is a linking between the files. Just so people understand, right? Localization alias, you mean a link where you don't provide the data, but you say here's where to get the localization, right?
Localization,
right?
And be able to reference it from places. So that if you change the string in one place, it's changed everywhere. It's referred to. And I understand where you're coming from, Andy, but it would also be useful to know if that can be done.
Okay.
So it does, you're right, it is introducing a kind of a dependency.
Good question.
Hey Rob, can you bring back the doc for a second and scroll down to the isolated engine section?
Sure. Okay.
So it appears that it enumerates the set of things that are available to the engine from the application. I'm not sure if it's meant to be an exhaustive list or not.
Right. We're not, to my knowledge, Wayne, you're not expecting us to mark the engines as isolated?
Isolated? No.
I have another. So Andy, I don't think this would apply unless we choose to isolate them.
I'm not sure that's the best. I sent you a link to a much more clear engine overview that goes through
Okay, let me add that to the
the
list.
various things.
Yeah, I wasn't trying to imply that we should isolate them. I was trying to say that that little section was saying, if you don't isolate them, you should have access to all of these things.
That's right.
Right. And one of the things that struck me in this, and Wayne and I chatted about it a little bit, is that it's not very different than what we're doing. We were already walking down the path of having to create rolled up routes and some of these other isolation mechanisms ourselves, or these namespace anti-collision mechanisms ourselves. So, it
Yeah,
seems
right.
like a very natural.
It's really
It seems like a great thing.
It's just kind of a standardized way of doing what we were already trying to achieve. I don't really see
Yeah, it seems like
many differences.
Are we at the phase of declining returns on the discussion?
I think
Unless
so.
anyone else has more questions. Yeah, so I'll try and provide more information as I make progress to these.
I actually want to take a step further than that, Wayne, and this might open up discussion
Okay.
again. Because what I'd like to do is start implementation, right? I want to go through and back rev our current Barclamp versions to 1.9 as a way of accommodating that we're going to that the engine's pattern is 2.0. I want to make sure that we exit this call with we are using this going forward decision. Or do people feel like they have enough information to agree with that? And speak up if you don't agree.
Well, I'd like to have an installed admin node running an engine, visibly running an engine before I think we could do that. But I'm quite cautious kind of guy, so it's just me.
Well, I don't want you to keep working down the path. My assumption is that you're going to work down that path on the assumption that we're going to do the migration. If you run into issues, then you'll raise flags and we'll stop. But I'd like us to make, here's the direction we're going, and these are the steps we're taking to validate it, and we will unless something surfaces unexpected, we will begin the migration process in the next sprint.
Well, did we talk about using, for example, the logging Barclamp as the first Barclamp to migrate before we do it en masse?
Yes. Yeah. I'm expecting this to be staged. But if something...
Yeah, well, I was operating under the assumptions you're talking about, that we're implementing them now.
Right.
So I think that's a yes, everybody.
Let's
go for it.
So we're going to...
I'm mildly disappointed that I don't get multi-processing, but hey.
It's not even planning. We are migrating. So this is the action. We are migrating Barclamps to engines. It's subject to continuing review and progress. So at this point...
Hi, this is James from SUSE. So, yeah, sorry to interrupt. I just want to say I think it's great that we're moving towards engines. I think that will make the development a lot cleaner, with the things with the separate namespace. It'll be much nicer to work with. So I'm actually pretty much looking forward to seeing this landing somewhere. And then we can, maybe help to port stuff over and start working with that.
Good. Yeah, I'd love to see you and Wayne coordinate on it. Start doing it. I should be able to get the 1.9 backport done pretty fast. Once I get past my next pull.
I'm sorry. What do you need to backport to 1.9?
So what I'm going to do is not 1.9 Ruby right now.
Okay.
Right now, all of the Barclamps. Sorry, hold on a second. My machine shut down. I can't show you. I can show you on GitHub. So all of the Barclamps at their root have a Crowbar YAML file, and in that Crowbar YAML file, there is a layout version, which when we started the work for Crowbar 2, we switched it to be 2. What I'm suggesting is that this 2 should reflect the engine's version of a Barclamp. And so I'm going to make these layouts bump down to 1.9. And then the installer I'm looking at this code anyway because I'm dealing with trying to migrate the docs to more rational locations. Oh. Nope, it's not there. Where is it? Should be under extra.
Probably under releases. If you just look for extra, it'll be
here it is.
Correctly.
Yep. Where is
So can I add a parking lot at some point to talk maybe a little about OpenSUSE and where that sits?
Yes.
It sounds like James had a great progress and.
Yeah, sure.
Let me wrap this, and then maybe this is way too detailed for people, and we'll just move. Anyway, down in these files, it actually detects that version, and so my plan is to move us back to 1.9, allow the installer to install 1.9, and then make 2.0 explicit, because there will be install differences, and I want to make sure the version stays at 2.
Actually, now talking about versions for the Barclamps, there's some kind of policy that you have like a major, minor, and build version. So like three parts to the version number, like the gems, or would you just stick to 2, or is it somehow undefined?
Right now, I'm treating them like strings. So if we want to have minor parts, then we ultimately should. Yes.
Wait, but Rob, this version currently is the layout version. Right, so it doesn't actually represent anything about the content of the Barclamp. It's just how the installer expects and treats the content of the Barclamp. It's not truly a version of the logic within the Barclamp. That's it.
That's right. That version is all about how the installer treats it.
Yeah, I think James was looking more for a real honest-to-God Barclamp version kind of a value.
Oh,
Yeah, I was thinking that would make sense. I don't know if it does for your use case, but I guess in general, if we split up the Barclamps like engines, we could package them as separate gems or whatever. Or even if not, it's kind of nice to have a useful versioning scheme that we can figure out. If it's just a minor fix, we just increment. Like Rails, like if you have a security fix, they just bump up the last number and so on.
There is a.
One of the things.
Go ahead, Wayne.
Well, I was just going to say there's several issues there. One is there's an API version for the Barclamp, and then but Barclamps contain other things such as packages and so forth. So it's not clear what kind of versioning scheme you might want. It may be that having a single version for an entire Barclamp is too overarching.
We do have the concept of a Barclamp having a version, and those versions are surfaced in the import screen, and so No, James is entirely right. It's reasonable if you have a Barclamp and you're making incremental changes to it to do that. We also, when we build the Barclamps, the build system injects a date and a GitHub GUID for the commit on it, and so those things are used to reconcile whether you're installing a new Barclamp or not.
But it sounds, especially when we're going to move away from only an ISO install, but installing using packages where Barclamps are packaged independently, it sounds like there's some thinking that needs to happen there around how and what exactly we version.
Exactly.
And I'm trying to suggest that maybe you take it as an action item and sleep on it rather than delve into the full details now.
Let me add it to the
I mean, I think it can be pretty simple, actually. I mean, if you have the regular version scheme, so, let's say we have the new Barclamps, right? So it'd be like 2.0.0. And if we change something that doesn't break the API, we just increment the last number. And so in the API version, you can just take the first two numbers, so just the major number.
Right.
And that should work. Or am I missing something?
That seems pretty straightforward to me.
Well, I think what Wayne was touching, that there is, for the version number to truly be useful, we might want to be able to make assertions around when does a change and what a change means. So if you change an API, public API, URL accessible versus a model API, right? Because Barclamps will be interacting among themselves by invoking each other's models.
So hold on.
Dependency.
This discussion is taking precedence over the OpenSUSE discussion if we continue it. I've put it in the backlog.
Yeah, I was just trying to say that it's not as simple as it might appear at first glance. So,
right. But I mean, if you break the API, then you have to increment the number. So if I break the API in the new thing, so it should be instead of 2.0.0, it should be 2.1.0 or something.
Let's definitely hold this off. I'm tracking it, and we'll have a design session on it. Probably 30 minutes is enough. Okay. And then Andy was hoping, James, you would give us some update on the OpenSUSE pieces.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so I guess you can see from my pull request that we're making pretty good progress with the OpenSUSE stuff. So now that we have plotted Crowbar to actually work on Ruby 1.9, I started to get stuff to work. So I've built an appliance, so Crowbar.vm, that's based on OpenSUSE 12.2. I think I'm still waiting for 2 patches, so I think you guys are creative in merging in the pull requests pretty quickly. But I think there's still 2 pull requests that I need to be merged into master. And once that's done, then I will basically send an email to the Crowbar list and maybe blog about it somewhere, so that you now have a dev VM that's relatively easy to use to set up Crowbar in a test environment. One issue I have is that. And I'll file a bug report on issue for that after this call, I guess, is that the BDD tests don't actually run. So I can compile the Erlang stuff, but when I run it, it will just crash and I get a call down. So I don't really have Erlang experience, so hopefully somebody can help figure out what's wrong. Maybe, I don't know, the Erlang package on OpenSUSE is 2.0 or whatever, but some help there would be great.
Yeah, if we can get the VM out there, we can start working on that.
We can find out.
I would consider that a blocking thing.
Right. I mean, you can already download the VM right now from SUSE Gallery. The link is in one of the pull requests. I can paste it in somewhere.
Yeah, please do.
So, James, are you playing around with running the chef side of the house as well, or are you purely looking at the Crowbar?
Yeah, so what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to build up from the Bag Rails app and then start incorporating the other stuff like Chef and whatever else, and eventually having the whole shebang stuff running there.
So this one,
yeah, definitely.
Part of the reason I'm asking is because one of the pull requests for 1.9 compatibility changed. I forget the syntax of case or something, and that code for very bad reason is actually repeated copying. It's reused by copy and paste in two places, one of them on the Crowbar app and one of them on the chef side. And you caught the Crowbar app, but you didn't catch the chef side.
I see. Yeah, I haven't started testing the chef stuff yet. Because the last time I ran the chef spec, we didn't really test much with the chef spec stuff. So I don't know if that has changed.
No, we still don't do a whole lot in terms of chef spec, but basically if you install an admin, part of the installation process of an admin actually runs big chunks of the Crowbar recipes.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess I'm trying to ask I think you sent out links, but I haven't had time to actually go read. So your process.
Yeah, the chef stuff will come later on, so it's my to-do list, but yeah, not yet.
So, but effectively, your process is to install an OpenSUSE 12 box and then install the Crowbar app packages on top of it.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Okay.
So I guess the way my workflow is sort of the opposite of you guys, right? And I guess it's okay for both to coexist because depending on where you're coming from and what's your use case, both directions sort of make sense.
Yeah, no, I wasn't trying to say it doesn't make sense. Sorry if I implied. I was just wondering then if you're aware of any issues of running current chef on Ruby 1.9 and on OpenSUSE.
Not that I know of. It should work, but yeah.
It just sounds like a relatively large risk that we might want to tackle early and see if bombing left right.
It should be fine actually because in Studio we are using Ruby 1.9 and we are actually rolling out Chef 10 as well to our production clusters. So yeah, but if there's a problem, I guess we'll hit it first in Studio.
Oh, okay. I wasn't aware of that. So I guess it's a lot less risky than it felt.
Yeah, and I guess it's pretty safe because, I mean, Rails 4, we should be out pretty soon. It's also on 1.9, so I'm pretty sure Chef will really try their best to get it to work with 1.9 as well. And 1.8 is going to be dead in June, I think. No more security fixes.
Related but totally not. Have you guys looked at all at Chef 11 and?
Not yet. So I just talked to our studio guys today actually to try to nudge them to look at it. So actually Nanuk, one of the SUSE guys working on SUSE Cloud and a bit of Crowbar. So I think he's pretty much wrapping up the packaging work of Chef 10 on SUSE Linux Enterprise 11 and OpenSUSE. So once he's completely done, there's still a few small issues left. But once he is done, we're going to get him to work on packaging Chef 11. So once we have that, then we will start, poking around with it and see if it makes sense. So for us internally, we are also looking at, do we want to roll out, like for Studio, Chef 10, or do we, jump directly to 11? So to decide, we, of course, have to play around with it. So pretty similar to what we need to do in Crowbar. So I'm hoping we can get the packages done soon, and then it'll be easier for us to play around with it.
Makes sense.
Have you guys tried? I'm curious.
No. We've been burned in the past with early versions being slightly buggy. There are a couple of features that I really want from Chef 11 around the API and how it manages keys and stuff. But as of now, the plan is to wait a little for it to stabilize and hopefully gain other people's experience before we dive in.
Right. So for us, actually, we're pretty much looking forward to Chef 11 moving to something like Postgres instead of CouchDB, because at least that makes it a lot easier for us to operate, to maintain, because we don't need to figure out how to operate CouchDB in a production environment and stuff like that. One downside is that Chef 11 uses, at least for us, I think the server side part of it is written in Erlang, which for us is a bit of a learning curve. I guess for you guys, you know Erlang pretty well, so maybe it's not such a big deal.
It's actually better than others.
Hotel software written in Erlang.
Erlang as well. So
We're the only team at that.
I'm not sure how much you need to dig in it. Okay, sorry for the diversion. Rob, where are we on the agenda? I'm sorry.
We're doing fine. I mean, the goal was to talk through OpenSUSE. It's worth talking through what next steps we should take. Is there because that might influence things that James does or components that we do, right? At some point, we're going to want to run our own build for OpenSUSE so we can duplicate it, and then also run pull requests against it to see if they're blocks.
That's actually a question that was running in the back of my mind. Some of the changes that James has been making were conditionalized on OpenSUSE. So I guess we're trust or on SUSE, right? For example, the user group thing. I'm guessing at this point we're completely reliant on you testing it and making sure it's not breaking on SUSE because we don't yet internally have a SUSE build.
Mm-hmm. Yep, that's fine. So my plan is, once the things become a bit more stable, is to set up some kind of automatic test environment, so we can, automatically detect changes early on. It's actually a bit tricky, the way the actual environment is built, right? Because repository and then run the dev setup unit test thing. So I was thinking of setting up like another Git repository and a cron job that just automatically does this and pushes it to that. And then I can use something like Travis to do automatic CI on that.
We do something similar.
I don't know if that makes sense, or have you guys thought about something?
We maintain a Git repository with our cache in it. And that cache and the build will fail if that cache isn't updated. So when we add gems or RPMs or debs, then that part of that check-in involves also updating the cache in our Git cache.
Okay.
It's one of the reasons
but this is
why
internal, it's not
we
public.
Sometimes get caught by public repos moving around because we internally don't rely on them.
Yeah, it's still internal, James. There's all kinds of legalese that we're working through to actually make it available externally.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm actually not.
That's
I'm
fine.
not sure.
I was just thinking of setting up a simple Git repo, so it shouldn't be a big deal.
Yeah, if we do it, if somebody was to create a public one, we'd have to unfortunately talk to lawyers about how to contribute to it. But it's just we don't actually. I'm not even sure we want to repackage things that are available on the internet in another source. I'd rather for us to catch it in our build processes and then fix our dependency trees. So,
how hard is it to generate OpenSUSE appliances at this point? It's for the unwashed masses.
To generate the appliance or to consume it?
Either.
Okay, so to right. So to consume it right now is easy. I mean, I don't have the link offhand, but I think one of my pull requests, and I think it's already merged into master actually. So if you look at the dev setup, that's the README file, and it does pretty much describe step by step what you need to do to consume it. It's basically describing my dev setup. So if you're using VirtualBox or something else, it might be a bit hairy to set up the KVM stuff. But in theory, the VM, you should be able to run it in whatever, KVM, Hyper-V, whatever hypervisor it should work.
VirtualBox?
You just need to mess up. Yeah, it works. So I'm building the appliance with SUSE Studio. So I don't know if you guys have seen it. If you go to SUSEstudio.com, the link will bring you there. Basically, it's a nice web interface. You can just select the packages you want. So I built my image with that thing. So you can go there, you can clone it. So if I'm missing something or if you want to add your own customizations, you can just easily clone it, and it's all in the UI. So you just click on it, in 5 minutes you have the build, you can download, spin it up, and yeah, it's pretty easy to do it with that.
Yeah, that would make for a nice I guess I'd like to see our ability not to generated as an internal build so that we can put it through a test process without the download. But yeah, I mean, we could use Vagrant or something like that to automate the process at that point.
So Studio has a full set of APIs, REST APIs, so you can automate it if you want to. But right now, I'm just thinking this is just for a dev setup. So for the actual thing, we will probably have a different process where we build it with the OBS or IBS, and we have like more proper stuff. But both ways, in theory, would work as well.
I guess so. The packages that SUSE Studio is injecting are ones that you build. So do you build them locally and then upload them to SUSE Studio and then have it build an image and then download it?
So right now I'm working from a developer approach. So everything is from Git. So I'm not using any Crowbar specific packages. Okay. So everything is put from Git.
And then
so it's not really so much for the product. So for the product, we will have proper RPMs and stuff, and that'll be different.
And SUSE Studio will bundle that together for you, is what you're saying? From Git?
It can also do that, yeah.
Okay. I'd like to see this whole process as a future design. We definitely need to get it in our integrated systems, and we need to be spinning up versions so that we can also help troubleshoot. We're just about out of time. So I know in a future topic we want to talk about DevTool, and that'll end up talking about automated tests predominantly, and the process for that. So what I want to do is ping Victor on where that is. Right now we're doing a lot of manual testing on each pull request, and we're hoping to automate that in the short term. We just need to make sure Victor is available to finish it out. It's a priority for him, but I don't know.
Yeah.
I realize we're over time, but I just wanted to sneak the question. Are you guys going to spot them?
I will be going.
Okay. We've had some internal emails around that because both the OpenStack folks and the Chat folks have made various noises around having a cloud day and stuff. Do you know how big your presence is going to be there?
So every year SUSE will have a bus from Nuremberg, so we usually have from the whole company SUSE, I don't know, at least 20, 30 people who will be there. For the people who are interesting for you guys, so the guys working on SUSE Cloud, on Crowbar, we're still sort of planning, trying to figure out who we want to send, but I would say maybe at least 3 to 4, maybe more. So maybe 10. But if you guys are coming down, we could send the whole team there, possibly. And, maybe attend a conference and spend some time hacking together. Because I think FOSDEM, I don't know if you guys have been there. We usually, go there every year. It's a pretty good event for meeting up people, and there are a lot of dev rooms, so, you can actually sit down and start hacking on stuff. It's not just listening to talks, but that's definitely, that thing. And if you guys come down, we could do some joint presentations, talking about, Crowbar or whatever. It's a bit late to get the sessions in, but we could maybe squeeze something or at least do a lightning talk. So.
It sounded as if there's a cloud day, dev room for cloud.
Yes, there's a systems management track where they talk about Puppet, Chef, blah, 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 and there's also a cloud where they talk about OpenStack and all that stuff.
Yeah, and I think Thierry actually manages those sessions, so I think we have some various. I think it's just FOSDEM.com or FOSDEM.org.
Yeah, FOSDEM.org.
I'm just pulling it.
I've seen some marketing folks, and there was probably early in December. So there's all kinds of internal discussions. There's an interesting, possibly useful data point that you guys are gonna be there for.
Yeah. So it'd be nice if you guys can come down. I mean, for you guys, of course, I guess it's a bit more expensive to just fly across the Atlantic. But the hotels are pretty cheap. We checked the NH City Hotel, pretty decent hotel. It's like, I don't know, 70 euros a night.
I know there's been some
And
discussion
the conference
about
is
it.
free.
I don't think we've put budget time into it. I need to figure out when Dell has an FRS event. I think it's in Barcelona. I know that there's some SUSE presence there, although I don't think it's technical. It's usually a sales-focused event for us. But let me see, because I know internally we've been talking about travel to Europe.
Rob, the Europe FRS is in February 19th to the 21st.
Thank you. I'm not going to post that here because it's community. But, okay. Let's see. I don't. Right now, we don't have any travel plans. We're guarding every nanosecond very cautiously unrelated to the schedule topic that we keep postponing because we're trying to create good news before we have that discussion. But you know, we can certainly line up some batteries and see about getting people there. But right now, it's not in the plans.
Might as well put that part on the wiki so we remember that we said it's not currently planned.
Got it.
Does it make sense for us to meet, like the Dell and SUSE guys working on Crowbar, to meet up at some point, whether in the US or in Europe?
Definitely. Definitely.
Well, last time we did it at the summit that's coming upon us, though it's in early March.
Yeah, I'd like to do it before then. I've been working on management here to try and get a date when we can bring our team, because our team's also split. Bring our team together, and we would open that up so that SUSE, if you want to come over and do it, that would be great.
Do you have some rough expectations when the time frame will be, just so we can, shift stuff around if we need to?
Yeah, February. We're looking at February, and then I'm trying to organize something for what amounts to the first week in February. February's a little offset, and I think that's. I don't know that I'm going to be able to pull that off. That's why I'm so hesitant. So it would amount to the week of the 4th is the first week I'm targeting for Austin.
February. Okay.
Right.
Unfortunately, February doesn't really work for me, but yeah, I guess we can send other guys.
Well, what I'm looking at is then trying to find another week, like the 18th or 25th. Right. We have to do it pretty much in February, and potentially do it in Boston at that point. So those are key dates. If you have preferences on what would work better, that might influence us whether Austin's better or Boston is better. That information is useful. I'm assuming Boston's better for you.
So for me personally, I can only do like second week of March or third week of March onwards. So from my March 11th onwards, but that's probably too late for you guys.
It's not necessarily too late because we're going to be very focused. That's when we're going to be focusing a lot more on OpenStack and getting Grizzly going. Our target is to be functionally complete on the skeletal Crowbar 2 pieces in mid-February, and then start focusing very heavily on the OpenStack integrations. And after that, so just getting the team together every month, we should look at an opportunity to do it. So a time in February and a time in March. So send your preferences or put preferences in, and we'll work to accommodate.
Sure, I'll add it to the minutes.
Yes, please do. I'll create a topic for it.
Because how eventually
Okay, we are over, so I'm going to close the bridge down, and we'll do this same. We'll do it at 10 o'clock tomorrow, and try and catch up on our backlog. Talk about Cmdb. All right, everybody. Until tomorrow.
All right.